Alex Ahad. I'm the creative director and creator of Skullgirls. I've also done contract work, and prior to this, I've worked at Gaia Online and Playdom. Done some stuff for Way Forward, and I've also been featured in, I guess, a few magazines and books.
Hi, I'm Mariel Cartwright. I'm the lead animator on Skullgirls, and I'm also part of the Mecha Fetus Art Collective. I also am animating on Crymore currently, and do a bunch of other freelance projects.
My name is Richard Suh, and I am the lead cleanup artist for Skullgirls.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Shih. I'm their intern for Skullgirls, and I'm actually still a college student, but I do graphic design and illustration freelance as well.
Well, I've known Yvonne and Jill for years. I actually forgot to mention in my introduction that I'm also part of Lava Punch 1 and 2 and the Spaceman Anthology, which are the previous books that this group has done before. And I've known them since my days in BAO, which is basically an artist group gathering in the Bay Area Artists Unite. And I had met them through there back in high school, so I guess I've known them for many years now. Like I mentioned before, I've done stuff with Jill and Yvonne in their previous comic anthologies. So Lava Punch 1, 2, and the Spaceman collection, as well as I've done stuff for BAO back in those days, because they used to have an anthology of their own. That's kind of where Lava Punch partially from that, and also being inspired by Flight. I'm sure they must have mentioned that in their previous interviews.
A few years ago, I guess in college, my friend Jonathan Kim and I did a few short comics for Gamers Quarter, which was a short video game zine that a bunch of friends of John's were putting together at the time. But other than that, I hadn't really done like a full comic by myself, other than like retarded 24-hour comics. I shouldn't say retarded.
I still remember this.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, this is the first full color comic I've done myself, start to finish.
I've dabbled in comics. I've done like 2 or 3 pages at most, and mostly just doodles. It was scribbles and nothing ever completely finished. So this is my first kind of real comic assignment. Yeah.
The only comics I've ever made are just like really dumb ones in my free time that are like 4-panel like sort of stuff. Nothing like an actual full comic with an actual story behind it. So it was my first time working with so many pages.
So you're working with Alex, is that correct?
Yeah, I was helping Alex with like coloring and typesetting and everything.
Probably like elementary school, I would think. I was interested in cartoons and like just drawing, and it kind of stemmed from like being interested in comics. Like back in elementary school, I used to take like a lot of like classes like in community centers on the side to learn like how to draw like comic style. But obviously this was more like Western comics, because that's where at that time that was like the thing, and like learn how to draw like those very like those weird like how to draw style kind of things, which is like circles and like lines, and so I started from there, and then I think I got into the more anime kind of style around FF7, I guess, probably 97, I think. So I was getting more fascinated with like Ronin Warriors, and my brother was really into Sailor Moon, so I was seeing a lot of that. And let's see, what else? I'm trying to remember what other shows. I mean, like those are the shows we would watch like that were on at that time, and I think that kind of influenced what I was interested in. And then I'd start seeing like the mangas that were being out. I think the Pokemon manga was coming out around that time, but then obviously like the ones that were coming out in America at that time were like heavily edited or censored or whatever. But basically it was they were still at that time kind of treated like Western comics, where they were like still like very small issues of things. I think they did that for Blade of the Immortal also around that time. So I think I really started picking up into comics around when I started going to BAO meetings, because like people would bring they would bring their comics, and this was around the time that it was still, like I was mentioning, it was still kind of had a Western treatment where things were flipped, or other stuff like that. Like the earlier Blade of the Immortal issues were flipped, but I remember the artist specifically would try to do things to make sure that it stayed true to its spirit, or they would actually not flip the panels, but just arrange them differently. That's kind of why Blade of the Immortal took forever for every issue. Yeah. And then, also like Richard was mentioning, like Berserk was something I was into at that time, and I guess I still like shonen stuff. I haven't caught up with One Piece in a while, but I remember back then One Piece was a pretty big influence. in something that I really dig. You know, the style of that was a kind of like that between like, you know, clearly it wasn't just traditional anime style.
I was actually really into those Sonic Archie comics when I was a kid. That's actually what got me started. I was really into Sonic when I was like 6. And so for a few years I was reading those, but then when I was like maybe 9 or so, my dad gave me a Oh My Goddess and Ranma book that he didn't need anymore, and then from there I started getting into all that kind of stuff.
As a kid, my parents would always, they'd look through the newspapers, and I didn't really care for the newspaper except for like the comic section. So like since I was like 6 or 7, so I'd like get like the Sundays and Sunday Funnies and read through it. And I remember being really into Calvin and Hobbes. Like earlier, I was into Garfield because it's a little simpler humor, but then as I got like into like 8, 9, 10, I was like, Calvin and Hobbes is the best newspaper strip, and then that kind of formed what I thought good humor was. And after that, I got into manga and stuff like that. So that kind of informed what kind of style I wanted to draw in. And Berserk and Slice of Life comics kind of informed what kind of stories I wanted to tell.
Yeah, actually, I think on that note, now that you mentioned that, I do remember like, me and my brother, we would just like read a lot of like, like the Sunday Funnies, those things. I mean, we pretty much all would have grown up on that to some extent. Yeah, like Garfield, for example, we actually would, go to the library and read the collections of them or whatnot. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
me and my brother actually, I guess because of the way like our parents would like drop us off at places, we'd be at the library for like long periods of time. That was basically our daycare or like our time to actually try to get homework done before we got home. So that was also the time I ended up just drawing a lot instead of doing homework. Was just at that library. At the library, it's like a quiet place. It's got a table. You end up like finding books and reading them or drawing a lot.
Yeah.
Or I guess doing homework.
My parents would they would get like, you know how like schools would have those scholastic kind of
the handouts for like books you can order and stuff.
I would always tell them I want this one, that one, and that one, and they're like, okay, whatever, fine. And then like they would get me like the Fat Cat 3-pack of Garfield.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. I have this massive thing. Like I would just sit on the toilet and read all day.
I mean, I feel kind of bad for my childhood self now thinking about on that humor because it's just so. It's kind of like really base, but at the same time,
well, you're a kid, like
I really like that kind of humor back then. And I guess if I think about it now, it probably is still a little funny, but it's Garfield. That's cool.
I remember when I was a kid, I also read like they're saying lots of Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and Peanuts and stuff. But as far as like manga, I remember my mom, she would buy me like these Chinese manga about like a monk and his animal friends and adventures they would go on. So I read a lot of those, and I thought it was like a really cool way to tell stories. And I also read like these like shoujo style retelling of historical figures like Joan of Arc and Genghis Khan and Buddha and stuff. Cool. Yeah, I read a lot of those too. Yeah, because I thought like, oh, this style is so cool. It seems so sparkly. So yeah, like when I was in elementary school, I was reading a lot of that kind of stuff. But as far as like popular manga goes, I didn't really start getting to that until like later in my teens.
I think I remember a bunch of my earlier drawings. I just don't know which one of them is first in terms of order. I mean, I remember like a lot of those like how do we draw dinosaurs and how do we draw jets and stuff. I remember trying those out and like, oh cool, I can shade and stuff. But I feel like that was a more advanced memory because I can't believe that I'd be able to do that.
Did you ever get like those like how to draw anime books that are just awful?
Oh man, no, they didn't have those back then. Like they didn't have them yet.
You bought me one.
Oh yeah. I got one for Mariel so she knows how to draw sexy women. I'm sure it was like a foundation for your education.
Yeah, and like at like 22,
exactly.
years of age.
Yeah, like last year exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I also in first grade and also beyond. I mean, I think I drew before that, but I remember me and my friend, we would always do like the 3x3 grid and try to make up our own Robot Masters, like Mega Man Robot Masters. That was always something fun that we would do together. So that's definitely something, one of my earlier drawing memories. I think some of the ones that we ended up thinking up actually ended up eventually becoming actual robot masters. Obviously not from that, but like I think I remember either I made a Hyperman or a Turbo Man, and I know there's a Turbo Man, I think one of the later Mega Mans. But yeah, I think aside from that, I would draw stuff for people at elementary school. I remember one guy wanted like a Scorpion doing this fatality. I can remember trying that.
That's cool.
And yeah, I mean before that, there was cartoon stuff. And
Yeah, I think when I was 6, I drew a picture of Sonic going to Bubsy's.
nice.
Going to where?
Bubsy's house.
Oh.
I like where this is going.
Can you tell us more about that?
Like all the memories came back at once, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. I think, I was, always drawing, but I think the first drawing that I remember really doing was a drawing of Sonic and Tails going to Bubsy's house. I remember spending a lot of time on that for some reason. But yeah, that was the first one, I guess, that I really remember. But otherwise, I've just always been drawing.
My earliest memory of drawing was I had a giant book of dinosaurs, like realistically painted dinosaurs, and I remember my parents got me a colored pencil set, and I really wanted to draw this one T-Rex, and I remember I spent like hours on it, and I showed my parents. It's like, oh, this is really good, and that was a really good feeling. That was my first memory of drawing something significant. I mean, like, as a kid, you draw all sorts of crayons and stuff. That was the big first one.
I remember when I was in kindergarten, our teacher had us draw as an assignment, and it was my first time being told to draw something. I thought it was the coolest thing being able to produce an image with my hands. So yeah, ever since then, I haven't stopped drawing.
Yeah, my story is kind of set in this post-apocalyptic setting where this mysterious element known as the Black Flame is kind of permeated throughout the world, and it's kind of got like a radioactive element to it. And it's about, in this world, people who've been burned by that flame either will die or turn into mutants. So there's a lot of these mutants kind of going around the world, and some of them, take advantage of the powers that they get from being mutants to abuse other people. And a particular set of these mutants have started harassing this nearby settlement, and have been tossing them into this gigantic abandoned cooling tower that they've dubbed the Black Torch because it's got a well of black flame in it. And they're tossing them in for some mysterious purpose. But we kind of see an excerpt of this story where this mutant named Fallout, she's trying to save one of the villagers from being tossed into this flame. So it kind of starts from there, and we kind of see an action scene from there.
My Black Torch story is about a female detective who is on the case of they keep finding kind of burnt, mutilated body parts around the city they're in, and it's about them finding out who or what is behind these murders.
The short version of my story is there's a girl who is lost in outer space, and she gets saved by some mysterious ship, and her kind of life goal is to try to find out who this ship was, and she kind of goes through these hurdles of getting her own ship and finding crewmates and all that stuff, and she eventually sees the ship, but she never quite finds out anything, and she wants to keep trying to find that ship.
So there's a mystery behind the ship.
Yeah.